Hi guys, thank you for being here with me today. My name is Kafaya. I'm with Do Space, and I will be facilitating today's after school club kid coder session. And on the list of activity for today, I will be introducing you guys to the world of, or reminding you, for those of us that are already familiar with Kano coding and the world of Kano code, I will be introducing or working with Kano code today. And just to serve as a refresher or a way to prepare us for today's activity, we're going to do a quick one of making an emoji. And I mean, we all like emojis now. They're a great way of expressing ourselves through text. So, how about we build an emoji for ourselves, but with code instead? Isn't that awesome? So, to get started with that, we're going to go on to the Kano Code website, and I'll put the link for that in the chat box right now so everyone can work along with me. Let's do this. Okay, so give me a second. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab that for you. And I just pasted the link in the chat box for anyone that's interested. Please feel free to work alongside me, and if I'm moving too fast or if at any point you want me to explain or redo something, please let me know. I'm here to help you, or I'm here to work with you guys, and I want to make sure we have fun learning and exploring, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is to follow the steps. The awesome thing about Kano Code and working on this website is that they guide you through your steps, and they give you like very detailed instructions on how to execute what you want to. So we're going to create our emoji by following the steps that they have listed out here for us. So the first thing to do is to, I guess we're creating an emoji face with stickers. Awesome. So I'm going to click on next and then we can get started. So our first thing is to draw and set our background color. So I'm going to go ahead, click, drag, and place it. And now I'm going to change my background color to blue. Nice. And now I'm going to go ahead and start with drawing my face. So I'm connecting all the blocks, and now I would change the fill color to yellow. Nice. So now I know that my face is going to be yellow. And now to get the outline of my face, I'm going to draw a circle with a radius of 150. Right? Nice. Cool. So our next step is to draw our eyes, right? So I'm going to change the X position of my eyes to 400. Oops. To 400. And my Y position is going to be 250. And so now I'm going to go ahead and grab the stamp block and change this from a crocodile to eyes, because you don't have crocodile on your face. It's an eye. It's your eyes. Okay, so I'm going to adjust the size of my eyes from 100 to 150. And I would also go grab my move by block, and this would help me do my mouth. I'm going to complete the last step. The last thing on my face that needs to be added to my emoji is the mouth. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same stamp block that we use for our eyes. I'm going to use that to get my mouth with the tongue out gesture. But if you can see, this is kind of awkward because my eyes and my lips are at the same point. No. So we're going to go ahead and go. Okay, so the move by block moves from the last position you drew something rather than using the coordinates of the canvas. So right now the tongue, like as you can see, is being drawn on top of our eyes because it only moved 5 pixels away from where we last drew our eyes. And that's not what we want, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on next, and we're going to change our 5 right here to 0, and we're going to change this 5 right here to 150. Awesome! And now what this looks like is our fully executed emoji, right? This emoji looks like it's having a good day, just like we all are going to have good days today. Awesome. So this is it. I hope this was a good refresher, and yeah. Okay. So now back to today's lesson. I hope that everyone is ready. So now we're going to move on to learning about loops. So while I enjoy building games and having fun with you guys every week, I want to make sure that we're learning as much as we're having fun. And since the purpose of this class is to introduce you guys to programming concepts, hence the name Kid Coders, we're going to try to incorporate a lot of like programming concepts to our every session, so that way you leave me every day with some added knowledge on programming. Sound good? Awesome. So we're starting with loops for today, and I have this quick video on loops that I want us to watch together, and please make sure to pay close attention so that you can tell me, oopsie, that was not the plan. Give me a second. Awesome, so we're back. So please make sure to pay close attention so that you can give me feedback on the video and let me know if you learned anything or if anything stood out to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the video right now. Sit back, relax, and let's go.
Think about a task where you have to do the same thing multiple times. Let's say you have to clear the table after a family dinner. You pick up a plate, bring it to the sink, wash it off, and dry. Not too hard, right? But what if you have a big family and you need to do this for every family member's dish? Maybe this means repeating the same task 6 times. Computers require very specific instructions to perform their tasks. So if you wanted to tell your robot friend to do the dishes instead, you couldn't just say, clean all the dishes. It's not specific enough. If you want a computer to repeat the same action 6 times, you would need to write 6 separate lines of code, the same exact instructions over and over and over. So annoying, right? Fortunately, there is a way to tell a computer to repeat an action without needing to repeat all the code. This command is called a loop. In programming, loops are the third of the flow control structures and allow us to use just one command to repeat the same process multiple times and complete a task. Loops are all about keeping your code dry. Dry means don't repeat yourself. So what's the problem with repetition? Well, typing out the same code over and over increases programming time. Also, if you have to write the same thing again and again, you're more likely to make a mistake somewhere. Make your code shorter with a loop. Now it's easier to debug and saved you time. So what does a loop look like in a program? Well, in JavaScript, loops look like this. This code will loop 6 times. But in Codable, this is what we use to program a loop. This looper will repeat 2 commands a certain number of times to achieve an outcome. A block of code like this works the same as code like this. In both, your fuzz will move right, up, right, up. But what do you notice about the 2 programs? This first option is shorter and drier. It will only take up 1 command bin in the game. The second option is not dry at all. It uses 4 commands and repeats the same commands twice. Now it's your turn. Use as few commands as possible to get the fuzz through the maze. Start by looking at the maze for patterns. Here I want my fuzz to move right, and then down, right, down, right, down, right. Instead of dragging out all those repeating commands, I can use the looper and set it to loop the commands down and right 3 times.
1, 2, 3.
I went from needing 6 commands to only 1. When you think you've figured out how to dry up your code like this, test it out. Good luck!
Woohoo!
If you liked this video, let us know by giving it a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe if you want to see more. Happy coding!
Nice. So that was pretty exciting and very informative. Can anyone here tell me anything that stood out to them from the video, or anything that they learned about loops, or the function that loops perform, or what loops help us do? Can anyone tell me anything they learn about loops? Let me know in the chat box right now. You can put your answer or your comment right about loops or what you learned from that short video in the chat box below right now. Let me know. Okay. So something that especially stood out to me in the video is the acronym DRY, which encompasses the purpose of loops in general. So DRY, D-R-Y, stands for don't repeat yourself. And thank God for loops, because with loops now we don't have to repeat the same line of code over and over again. Imagine if you wanted to repeat a command like 100 times. Imagine having to write the same line of code again 100 times. That would be tedious and it wouldn't be fun, right? So thank God for loops. Our code is able to be shorter and we spend less time writing our code or trying to execute anything that we want to. And it also makes it easy for us to debug our code, which is where you find errors. If maybe your code isn't working the way that you want to, since you have fewer lines of code, thank God for loops, you are able to debug your code a lot faster than you typically would if you had longer lines of code. Okay, so moving on, right now we're going to go ahead and practice using loops, but in the world of Kano coding. So we have a few loops challenges on the Kano coding website, and I'm going to go ahead and get to that. The first challenge that we're going to complete is called Starry Sky. So we're going to have a lot of stars in the sky. How are we going to make that happen? I know for sure that we're going to be using loops, right? So let me go ahead and get us started on that. So this is just our smiley face, just a quick peek to what we had already done today. And then now we're going to go ahead to working with loops. Okay, so the amazing thing about the world of Kano code is that we are going to be following the instructions that they have listed for us on the screen. So that way, if you're new to the world of programming, you don't have to be nervous about completing your tasks or following the challenges. The instructions are there explicitly to help you get through learning how to program. So I'm going to get started. Right here it says computers are great at doing something over and over again. In coding, this is called a loop, just like we learned in the short video that we just watched. It is time to create a night sky filled with stars using the power of loops. Yay, let's get started. Okay, so click or tap to open the tray to see the blocks inside. So I'm clicking on my draw tray. Nice. I'm clicking on my math tray and I can see everything and all the blocks that are inside of the tray. But for this activity, the first tray that we need to click on is our draw tray. And I'm going to go ahead and click, drag, and connect my block to the already existing block that says when the app starts. So I'm going to go ahead and um, change my background color. I'm going to set my background color to black, which is it represents the night sky the most because it's dark, it's black. We don't see anything in the sky except stars and the black sky. So up next, I'm going to go ahead and go into my control tray and I'm going to go grab my best friend at the moment, which is the loop, and I'm going to connect that block to my already existing block, and I'm going to change how many times I want the loop to repeat itself from 10 to 100. Nice. So I'm going to go back to my draw tray, and now this is where I get my stars. So I'll click, drag, and connect it right here, and now I'm changing this to white just so that it mimics the stars in the sky. So now I'm also going back into my draw tray and I'm going to click on the block that says draw or move to a random point. Okay, I'm clicking, dragging, and placing. And then now I'm going back into my draw tray and I'm going to choose the radius of the circle that I want to draw. And as you can see right here, this mimics the stars in the sky, right? But they're a bit too big for what I hope to execute. So I'm going to go back into my math tray and I'm going to give it a random number from 1 to 2. So it rotates, or it gives me random numbers between 1 and 2. And as you can see right now, this looks more realistic. Isn't it so cool how it looks like the stars in the sky? And if I refresh, as you can see, they move to different parts of my sky. This is very cool. Every time I refresh, because of the random block that I used, my stars don't stay in the same position. They move. So the more I refresh, the more it looks like I'm moving through the sky and just passing through the stars and they're just going by. Very exciting. Okay, so these were the blocks of code that I used to execute the Starry Sky. So you guys can let me know if you're caught up with me before we go on to the next challenge. I'll give us a few seconds so everyone can catch up and we'll move on to the next challenge. Yay! Awesome. So now we can go ahead and continue with our next challenge, which is, let's see what the next challenge is, which is the shiny crown. Okay, so I'm going to click on start and we'll let the steps guide us through. So we're going to make a shiny crown with sparkles that move. Nice. So the first step is to go into my controls tab, my control tray, and I would choose, of course, my best friend for this activity is my loop, and I would change that I want it to repeat from 10 times to 80 times. Just imagine having to write the same like lines of code to execute something, but having to write it 80 times just because we didn't have our awesome friend loops. That would be very stressful. Okay, so now I'm going back into my draw tray. Oops, what happened? Oh yeah, so I'm going back into my draw tray and I am clicking and dragging and placing this block. So now I know that my sparkle or whatever it is that I tell my code to do is going to move to a random point, just like we did with our stars in the sky. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw a stamp for, oops, for my star because I don't want a crocodile. But now this size is too big because it almost doesn't look like stars in the sky, right? Almost looks like something else. So I'm going to go ahead and change the size from 100 to 20. See, that's small enough and there's enough space in the sky for it to sparkle, right? It is so shiny. The code picks a random position to draw from and it draws a star stamp every time. And it does this over and over and over until we get to 80. Nice. Shout out to loops. So next, oops. So next, we're going to go back into our draw tray. Before we add the crown, we need to pick where our crown is going to be drawn from. If there's anything you should know about programming is that you need to be very specific and detailed about the instructions that you give your computer, right? Because you need to tell the computer when to turn, what to do when it turns, and what direction to turn to. Because unlike us that would use our intuition to figure out what to do next. In programming, you have to tell your computer exactly what you do so that it does exactly that. Okay, so now I'm going back into my draw tray and I'm going to select my block that gives me my X and my Y position. And remember, that isn't part of our loop. So we're going to put that outside of the loop and I'm changing my X value to 400 and my Y value to 300. So now we have a position for our crown to go. And now we're going to go ahead and get the block that would help us find our crown. And here we have it. And I'm going to make my crown a bit bigger and change the size from 100 to 150. So now the final step, well, the next step is to make sure that our sparkles move by restarting the code, right? So I'm going to go back into my control tab and I will tell my code that I want it to repeat this action every, I want it to restart my code, oops, every second. As you can see, if you look at my crown, you can see it's moving to like different positions. It almost looks like it's doing a wave, like a dance. Every second it moves from one position to another. And now, I'm sorry about that. And now I'm going to change the every 1 second block so that the sparkles move faster. So I'm going to go ahead and change 1 second to 1 millisecond. Ooh, this almost looks like flies. So I'm going to I'm going to go ahead and fix that and change that to 100 milliseconds. 100. Awesome. So now my shiny crown is all done and my challenge is complete. And as you can see, It worked. And our star, our, our crown is shining, right? Nice, this is very cool. So I'll give you guys a few seconds so everyone can catch up, and then we can move on to the next challenge. Loops are so awesome. They make life so easy, right? Awesome. So now let's go back, and we're going to get on to the next challenge. And now our challenge is called Wandering Trails. Let's see what the Wandering Trails are about. So it says make a drawing that wanders around the canvas all by itself. Okay, get started by setting the background color. So I'm going to open my draw tray and I will select the block that helps me set my background color. And I'm connecting. And now I'm going to choose what color do you guys want? Let's try orange or yellow. Yes. Okay. And now I'm going to go grab my best friend, the loop, from the control tray, and I'm going to connect it to the blocks that I already have, and I'm changing the seconds to milliseconds. And now I'm going to go set the color. I'm set the color you're going to be drawing with by opening the draw tray. So I'm doing that, and I'm going to drag and connect. And now I'm going into the color tray and I'm selecting a random color. So that way it'll be a surprise. Who doesn't like surprises? So now my draw tray, and I would choose to draw a circle with the radius of 5. And if you look right now at my canvas, you can see that there's just a tiny circle in the middle of the page that just keeps flashing. It's almost so distracting. I just want to spend all day staring at my flashing little circle. But let's go on. So I'm going to change the radius of the circle from 5 to 10. And now my circle is a bit bigger. And now every 1 millisecond, my code picks a random color to draw with. And it draws a circle. So now let's add a block to move the circle around so they don't draw on top of each other. So now I'm going to go in here. Oops. I'm going to go into my draw tray and I'm going to select the block that helps me draw my circle. And now I'm going to go into my math tray. Right now this is what we have. This is what it looks like. Do you see? And if I refresh, it does that again and again and again. Just that the colors change every time. Can you see? Nice. So let's go ahead, and now I'm going to go select the block that gives me a random number. So my circles are going to move to a random position between -10, -10 and 10. And I'm going to do the same thing for my y-axis. So I have my -10, my -10 to +10. So now, as you can see, this is what we have now. And if my circles wander off the screen or my canvas, I can either wait for them to come back, or I can just click the refresh button and it starts over. I refresh, it starts over, and the amazing thing is it never draws the same pattern over and over again. So I'm starting over, the circles are wandering all over the page, all over my canvas, and it does the same thing over and over and over again. Isn't that cool? Okay, so I'll let us enjoy the view of our wandering trails. And while we watch that, you guys can try to complete your activity if you're not up to this point. And let me know if you have any questions in the chat box. I'll be more than happy to help you with anything regarding this activity right now. Okay, so I think we have one more challenge before we say goodbye today. I hope that you guys have enjoyed working with loops as much as I have enjoyed working with you and working on them with you. Okay, so let's go on to our next challenge for the day. Isn't this interesting that we started the day with building an emoji and now we're up to our last challenge of the day and it's about emojis. So now we're going to create an emoji crowd. Let's see how we get to do that. Okay, so the first thing first is we're going to go grab our best friend, the loop that makes life easy so we don't have to repeat ourselves. Okay, and now I'm changing that my loop runs every 200 millisecond. Okay, so I'm going into my draw tray and I'm going to select a color, a random color for my faces. And now I'm going to go in here and make it move to a random position. And I'm back to my draw tray and I'm going to drag the circle block into my code space and I'm going to connect. And I'm changing my radius of my circle to 50. And I'm back into my draw tray and I'm going to drag my move block into my codes, my space, and I'm connecting. And now I'm going to change my X position to 5, from 5 to 0, and I'm changing my Y position from 5 to -20. Awesome. So now it's time to add my eyes. So I'm going to go, just like we did at the beginning with the stamp block, I'm going to click, drag, and connect it, and I'm changing from crocodile to my eyes. And now the eyes look bigger than the circle that's meant for the face. So I'm going to go ahead and change this from 100 to 50. And now the next step is to move. The move by block takes the random position that you drew at the circle at, and then it moves up by 20 before drawing the eyes. And then the loop repeats itself over and over again. That's why we have so many faces. So now we're going to go ahead and go into our draw block and we're going to tell it what position we want our mouth to go to. So we're changing X from 5 to 0 and Y from 5 to 50. Oops. Okay. That's not to 50. Awesome. And now I'm going to go to my stamp block and I'm going to select my mouth, which is my tongue out. And now I'm changing 100 to 50. And now we're all done. Oops. I don't want that. And now, as you can see, these are my friends. And if you wait long enough, they take over the entire screen. And it's just one tongue out emoji after the other with different colors, different faces, just like a big crowd, right? That's kind of exciting. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of all of our challenges for today. I'll leave this up for another minute, so anyone that needs help comparing can go ahead and do that. And I will, oops, okay. And I also pay attention to the chat. So if you guys have any questions, I can go ahead and answer them for you. I'm here to help. And yeah, that's basically all that we had to do today. We drew our emoji face. We got our night starry sky. We also got our shining crown and the wandering tail trails. We've achieved a lot today. And finally we ended with the same thing we started with, but with an addition of loops. We have our faces. Very cool, right? Okay, so this brings us to the end of today's lesson. And just like I said about introducing you guys to many programming concepts or terminologies, next week we're going to go on to learning about variables, and then we move on to logic and events and many more. So I look forward to seeing you guys in other classes and other sessions where we plan to learn a lot more together. So, if you have any questions, maybe you worked on something on Piano Code after the class and you need my help or assistance, or if you just want to show me what you were able to execute, please feel free to send us an email at hello@dospace.org. Again, my name is Kafaya, and I hope to hear from you guys. And if you're interested, you can go on to our dospace.org website where we have a bunch of other classes and events that I think you guys would have so much fun with. Okay? Well, thank you for being here with me today. I hope to see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.